All right. Yeah, if you're Palestinian or you know Palestinian music, then you know what that song is. Um, and I'm playing that song in tribute today to a man that I met more than 20 years ago in al-Quds, the old city of Jerusalem. And I met him. I knew him. I knew him for about 30 minutes. Has that ever happened to you? Have you ever met somebody that you knew for less than an hour, and then you never saw them again, and they had an enormous impact on your life? Has that ever happened? It happened to me. It can happen to you. So yeah, I mean, look, right? This thing, the Oud. Okay, so I've been playing the Oud now for 20 years, and the number one question that I get asked by everybody, regardless of where they're from, is how did you get in? How did you get into the Oud? In extreme cases, I've done gigs where somebody comes up to me and starts talking to me in Lebanese Arabic, and they assume that I am Circassian or Turkish, which is an enormous compliment. Enormous compliment. Not anything like that. I'm Scots-Irish descent. That's where I'm from. So, how did I get into this music? How did it happen? Yeah, great question. Well, it happened because of one guy, Muhammad the Palestinian. So, in 1998, I'd been married for 2 years. I had a lovely young wife, and we had some money put aside. Didn't have any kids yet. I was doing music at a church, and they had a package deal of the Holy Land. So, 14 days in the Holy Land. You can go and see all the biblical sites. I was already interested in the Bible. I was interested in biblical culture. Wow, it just seemed like a great opportunity. So Becky and I paid the money, packed our bags, and we went to the Middle East for the first time in our lives. What an adventure. And we had a fairly typical experience. Okay, we're walking here. Okay, we're stopping. Now, this is the front of the remains of the such and such. But they gave us a free day one Friday. And different people made plans to do different things. But Becky and I, we said, we're going to go to the old city, and we're going to buy some kind of funky instrument that I can take home and sample into my sampling keyboard at my studio at home, and have these cool ethnic sounds that I can use then with my music that I want to create. We had seen Ouds for sale in the shops as we passed on previous tour days. We'd seen them for sale, and I had met a young guy from Tennessee, young youth choir guy who had one, and he was really excited about it. I went into the shop, and the guy said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "Oh, I want to look at your Ouds, And he said, "Okay." And he said he would take it off the hook, and he would show it to me, and he would say, "This one is from Syria, very special, very special." And I would look at it, and the pegs would be like, there'd be daylight showing between the pegs and the peg holes, and the strings were they would waft as you moved the instrument. They were completely loose, and so I sort of tried to tune it, and completely impossible, completely useless piece of plywood and plastic triangles glued onto the back in the shape of an oud. It really wasn't even an oud at all, you know. And so I tried to be polite. I tried to be polite. Well, I'm going to look around, and then I might come back. I might come back. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. I haven't decided if I'm going to get an oud. I haven't decided what kind of oud I want. He was like, come on, man, just tell me. Just tell me. How much do you want? What would you pay for this? What would you pay? Just tell me. Just tell me. Just give me a number. This was kind of my first direct encounter with Arabic culture, unsupervised, you know, off the tour path, right? And it was fun and a little bit tense and kind of annoying, you know, all at the same time. And we extricated ourselves with great difficulty from that shop, that guy. I don't know who he was. He was a nice guy, young guy. And then we went to another shop, and it was the same thing. We did this 3 or 4 times. It was the same thing. One guy, he got so upset, not upset, but you know, like he kind of got on our case. Later, I was passing his shop, and he called out to me, and he said, "Hey, cheapie," which is great. Anyway, eventually, we wandered down this road, and I think it was David Street. I think that's where it was. And we came to a shop that was now we're way off the beaten path. And this place now in the city is it's like a tunnel. It's covered, right? Like it's like a covered market. But at the time, there were awnings going from both sides. This was 1998. There were awnings going from both sides, and it wasn't covered, but it was heavily shaded. It was on its way to being covered, but not quite covered yet. And we got way off the beaten path, and we found this shop, and it was, you know, it was kind of in a dark corner, and there was nobody around at all, you know. And there was a young guy sitting on a stool, smoking a cigarette, and he was looking pretty glum. He was looking like he hadn't seen a customer all day, and even though he'd seen us, he looked like he didn't have very high expectations. He didn't think that we were going to really buy anything from him, you know. But I introduced myself. I said hi, and I looked in his shop, and in the back of the shop there was an oud, and as I looked closely, it actually looked like it could be played. It actually looked better than anything that I'd seen, better than the plastic and plywood crap that I'd seen up in the main touristy area. So I said, "Is that an oud?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Is it for sale?" He said, "Yes." And he got up and he got it down and he handed it to me. Kept smoking a cigarette. Didn't get his hopes up, you know. And so I looked at it. I looked at the pegs. Hey, the pegs could be tuned. I put some tension on them, and then I tried to pluck it, and it held, you know. So I said, I got really excited, you know, because by now I'd sort of been bit by the bug a little bit. So I said, "I'm interested in this oud, but before I buy it, I want to make sure that it can be played. Can you play it for me?" He said, "I can't play it, but I have a friend who can play it." I said, "Okay, well, can your friend play it for me?" And I thought the friend was in the back of the store or just around the corner, and I thought the friend was going to come to me, you know. And he said, No. You have to follow me." "Where are we going?" "To see my friend." "Oh, I'm going to go with you to see your friend." "Yeah, come with me. I'll show you my friend. He'll play it for you." "Oh, okay." So first he took me to an ATM, you know, and we go left and we go right and we go through this tunnel, and then we come through an archway, and then we walk past some places and we go through another area, and suddenly I come into this courtyard where the ATM was, and it was exactly the same courtyard and exactly the same ATM that I had seen on a commercial back in America. I felt like I was walking onto a TV set or a film set. Suddenly, it was like I think it was a Visa commercial. Okay, and so he said, "Here's the ATM. You can get your money out." I said, "Okay," and so I got my money out, and now I have the money for the oud, and I'm following him to his friend, and I'm completely lost. Okay, and we come out suddenly into this broad area, and I found out the next day it was the Via Dolorosa. Okay, very famous street in Jerusalem. And right on the street there was a big shop. Big. I mean, this would be the size of a drugstore. You know, not like a little sort of booth, but a big shop. You know, and leaning against the side of the entryway, there was a guy with a pink button-down shirt on, nicely pressed slacks, black shiny leather shoes, and he had slick back hair, and he had a pencil-thin mustache, and he was standing there smoking a cigarette. He looked like an actor. He looked like a famous actor waiting to go on set and do his scene, just taking a smoke break between shots, you know. Except there was no movie set. It was just him there, but you wouldn't have known that to look at him. Anyway, Hazem, the shop owner, walks up to this guy and he says, "Yeah, Mohammed, this American wants to see if the oud can be played. Can you play it for him?" And Mohammed took a drag on the cigarette and he said, "I can play." And he sat down and he started playing it. Now, here's the thing. He started to play the oud with his, like I'm doing, but he was smoking a cigarette. So there was a cigarette sticking out, okay, while he was playing. You know, get a little. So imagine this is a cigarette. So he's got the risha, and he's got the cigarette, and he's playing like this. And the cigarette's there the whole time. And then when he finished, he took a drag on the cigarette. He was a pro. I think now that he started in Bayati Nawa, started on the top course. And he was up there, and then he switched to Nahawand, and he was doing a little cross stringing. That sort of a thing. And then he modulated at the end to Ajam. And he finished with a nice C major chord. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful. And I'd never heard anything like it in my life. I had never heard anything like it in my life. That's the life-changing thing that happened. Can you hear something that changes your life forever? Well, if you're a musician, you can. I had heard Arabic music back in the States. I had heard some kind of poppy, hafla, something that had I think it was in Bayati, and I had heard these quarter tones. And in the States, in the American context, it did not impress me. It did not impress me. That sound. My American ears, my Western tuned ears, I heard those notes that sounded out of tune to me, and I thought, oh my gosh, oh goodness, those notes, those are wrong notes. Somebody tuned their instrument back there centuries ago, and it got stuck, and it wasn't quite in tune, and then it became a tradition, and oh my gosh, oh, I'm so sorry, you know. And I had never heard the oud before. In my whole life, I'd never heard the oud. I had heard about the oud. My whole time in college, I had never heard the word oud, not once. When I saw Mohammed the Palestinian playing the oud, and I heard him play in what I thought was C minor, Nahawand, perfect intonation, and I heard him play in C major, Ajam Do, perfect intonation. But he had those other notes in there too. And it hit me. It was like a light going off in my head. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's not a mistake. Those notes aren't mistakes. That's a note we don't have. He's playing notes that my civilization doesn't know about. Wow. How do you miss? How do you not have notes? How do you? That's like having an art culture, painters, right? And they don't have purple, right? or brown. They don't have that color. And then you go somewhere and suddenly you see a new color. You're a painter. You see a new color. You've never seen it before. Wow. Maybe that happens in painting, in art. I don't know. Or maybe it doesn't. I don't really know. Anyway, that's what it was like for me. I didn't know that those notes existed. And man, the light went off in my head. I mean, I was beyond interested at that point. I was completely captivated by the whole thing. I told him, I said, it sounds really old what you're doing. Is it old music? And he said, well, the instrument is very old, but we write new music on it all the time. And, in my mind, I was connecting the sound of the oud with whatever my grasp of Arab and Middle Eastern civilization was going back through the centuries. I was seeing these grand vistas, and I was seeing the arabesques of the great mosque in Cairo, and I was seeing the minarets of Istanbul, and that was what was in my head, and I realize now that you can think of the oud, and you can think of Arabic music as kind of this big highway, and highways go two ways. You can call a highway, you can say this is the east-west highway, right? And you can say that, but of course, if you have an east-west highway, you can go west to east on the east-west highway as well. And I remember I bought the oud, and I took it back with me to the hotel with my wife, and I sat down and I had this funny little plastic thing, and I was trying to play it, and I would put it on my lap, and it would just, man, what is the deal? This is not anything like a guitar. Why is it round on the back? Why is it like, and these things, oh my gosh, this is, oh, I can't get it in tune, and the way that they work, why can't they have tuning keys? Here's something that you have to understand. If you're a guitarist, or if you're a non-oud player, and you're looking at this instrument, and you think, oh, how quaint, oh, how old-fashioned. Let's just set the record straight right now, okay? This thing that you're looking at here, this is a perfected musical instrument. These pegs are superior to guitar tuning keys. Not inferior, superior. And I'll just say, if you're a guitarist, every time you get it out of the case, you have to tune your guitar. Why? Because those little gears slip. These do not slip. If I tune my oud up in May, and the humidity and the temperature remain constant, it stays in tune. It'll stay in tune for 3 months, 4 months, till the season changes. Okay? And the neck, the shape of the neck, the size of the neck, the length of it is perfect. And the body, the size of the body and the shape of the body gives it its unique sound. This instrument, it's like a violin, okay? You can't make the violin better than it is. It has been perfected through centuries of trial and error, experiment and improvement. That's how the oud is, okay? So I gradually came to understand this, and I gradually came to understand that the music of the oud is of equal excellence to the physical composition of the oud. But the oud had inspired in me a fascination for this enormous tradition of Middle Eastern musical civilization. This enormous thing that I think in a lot of ways Middle Eastern people themselves, they don't hear it necessarily. They don't hear the depth of their own tradition because they grew up with it. It's just normal to them. I think. I'm not sure. But whereas I was seeing centuries of history every time I heard the oud, as I began to hang out with Arab musicians and learn from them, I began to realize they weren't seeing and hearing what I was seeing and hearing when they played the oud. They were seeing and hearing something different. And what they were thinking of, for them, the oud is not a historical thing. It's a present thing. It's not about the past. It's about now. And so they were thinking of their heroes from the mid-20th century
the amazing explosion of Arabic music that happened in the mid 20th century, what they call the golden age now, 20th century Arabic music. Kulthum, Farid al-Atrash, Muhammad Abdul Wahab, Riyad al-Simbati, Baliq Hamdi, Muhammad Qasabji, all of these great musicians. But this guy, Muhammad the Palestinian, I don't know what happened to him. I went back in 2017, I think it was, with my friend Jimmy Doyle, and I asked around the old city. There's a guy named Muhammad who plays the Oud. He was here almost 20 years ago, and he played for me. Have you heard of him? Muhammad, it's the most common name in the Middle East, so that's the joke. And they said, naturally they said, do you know his last name? I didn't know his last name. So, I'm making this video about this guy, and this was a moment that changed my life. Although I didn't know at the time that it was going to change my life, but I really had the sense, even there, in that moment, listening to him play this instrument, I wanted that sound. I could instantly see in my mind all the possibilities here, because this instrument is the equal of any instrument, any Western instrument. The guitar, the violin, the piano, it's the equal. There's nothing. I'm not doing it justice, but you can't get the sound of the oud on anything but the oud. You can't do what you can do with the oud on any other instrument. It's irreplaceable. It's incomparable. Some people would say it's the greatest instrument in the world. I didn't know that moment was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. Kind of amazing. It was a really good thing that happened there. It was a completely good thing. It was beautiful. Because music makes bridges of understanding between cultures. And I say that now, and it's just as clear as day to me now that is the case. I've lived that experience for the past 20 years because of this instrument. Because of this instrument, I have made friends all over the world, quite literally all over the world. And I have been welcomed into homes from multiple cultures. Turkish, Iranian, Armenian, Arab Christian, Arab Muslim, Israeli, and other cultures too, even Pakistanis, even people from India, and even just people that are from my culture, but that I would not have known and would not have gotten connected with them except for this instrument. And I don't know of any other instrument that's that way. I played piano for the first 20 years of my life, and I had good experiences. I had good experiences with the piano, but the oud, it's a whole other thing. The oud hasn't made me rich, but in a way, it has made me rich. If social capital, if relationships, if friendships, if understanding is wealth in this age of information explosion, then it has made me rich in a lot of ways. It was an important moment in my life, and it just happened. And this guy, Muhammad the Palestinian, he probably doesn't even remember me. He probably forgot me. He probably had forgotten me 5 days after that happened. And if I had not bought the oud, I might have forgotten him within 2 months or 3 months. But I did buy the oud, so I didn't forget him. And I hope he's still out there. And I hope someday, by the grace of God, he sees this video. Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, it's a crazy world we live in, I am already, in a sense, participating in that miracle, talking to people all over the world that I don't even know. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. But anyway, That's my story of Muhammad the Palestinian. Shukran jazilan, ya Ustad.